I think when people say here, follow your passion, they think follow what you love, follow what makes you warm inside, follow what gets your heart, like pumping and making you feel all, fuzzy.
Yeah.
But is passion is rooted in suffering, which sounds kind of dark, but the reason why we use the word passion is because it's the things that when people are passionate, they're willing to suffer for something that they see purpose in, that they care for, that they love. So you're passionate about the things that you love. Yes. Passion and love aren't the exact same thing.
Correct.
And so when you're passionate about getting good at something, you spend more time with it. You might be up until 3 a.m. digging and looking and saying, okay, how does that relate to that? How does that relate to that? And that becomes powerful because there's somebody who's not willing to do that and doesn't know what you know. And that's how you become valuable, because now you have something that you can offer to somebody else that has value, that could change their life or that could make their life just a little bit.
I think we're good. We are recording. We're live.
We are live with another Founders Drive. Let's go.
Yeah.
Man.
Back in the car. It's been a long week.
It has been a long week. It has been a long week. Shall we get into the main things?
Yeah, man. What do you want to start with?
Let's start with the Apple case.
Yeah, that's interesting. Want me to give like a rundown of what happened?
Yeah.
So essentially this week, big news for Apple. Epic news. Yes, epic news, you would say.
Yes.
There's an ongoing court case around the stranglehold that Apple, the monopoly that Apple has on their App Store.
Yeah.
Essentially means that anytime you want to buy something from an app in an Apple App Store, Apple is forcing the developers to add in a 30% fee for Apple to be able to transact with that customer. And for the longest time, that was the only way to do it per Apple's terms of service. And everyone was like, this is crap. Like, why are we spending an extra 30% on top of what we're paying for? And so Epic Games, the creators around Fortnite, sued Apple and was like, listen, we're selling stuff on the App Store. It should not be on this 30% fee. And they actually won this week. And the judge ruled that Apple can no longer force you to go down their specific App Store fee process, and you are completely allowed to link out to another payment processor to avoid that 30% charge, which is huge.
Yes. And said another way, it's Apple basically had a 30% tax if you were to make any sale through your app on the App Store. And it got a little bit ridiculous because Apple was also blocking block the transactions into the actual app on the platform. So what I mean by that is, if a developer was trying to redirect their customers to an external website or another way to make that transaction, Apple wasn't allowing that. And then they would also charge a 27% fee if they found out that a charge was redirected outside of the app. And so the Epic was making the claims that this was anti-competitive and that they were making money off of transactions that they had no intellectual property ties towards. Yep. And the judge ultimately agreed with that.
Which I think is great. I mean, this stopped a lot of creators from trying to break into that space because they knew it's like, oh, Apple, I'm going to have to overcome this 30% tax now just to be a player in this game. And so I think it's just good overall. There's no reason you should be charging that amount of fees just for a platform.
Yeah.
Like, especially one that big.
Yeah.
I think it's wild that was even a consideration from them from the beginning.
It's anti-competitive, but it's also, I think, it hurt them, I think, in the long run. And I think that's
stifles it.
Yeah, and I don't know how long they've had that in there. I don't know if they had the 30% fee. I doubt that they had the 30% fee when Steve Jobs was still alive.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But I wonder, because Steve Jobs was also very much about his money.
True.
And so I wonder if they would be this aggressive if Steve Jobs was still alive, because I'll say that the reason why I bring that up is part of me wants to blame this on Apple's lack of innovation, and by them not being able to innovate themselves out of the rut that they might have been in. I think that they defaulted to just charging more and keeping the business afloat that way.
Yeah.
Not that they're hurting for cash, but a big reason why they have so much cash on hand right now is because they just really exploited the fact that they had the App Store and that they could charge a 30% sales tax. That's what that is.
That's wild.
It's a 30% sales tax. America's not that aggressive with the sales tax. The states aren't that aggressive with the sales tax, and the fact that they had a 30% sales tax, it says a lot. It's a statement.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, we're going to do this because no one's going to stop us.
And no one can stop us.
And I think Epic Games was probably one of the best people to bring this lawsuit to the judge, because Fortnite is, one of the highest grossing games in a very long time, because they sell so many things to their store, and the App Store being a big part of that, right? There was a big financial incentive for both parties to, see how can I, take a little bit of what's happening here for our bottom line.
I think it's a win for developers. Yep. I think it's a win for businesses. I think it's a win for consumers, because a lot of times a small business would pass the cost on to the customer, the consumer, and they felt that. And initially, I think a lot of businesses, a lot of individual developers and engineers would just not eat the cost, but they would wouldn't say like, oh, Apple's making us do this. Then they started saying, no, Apple's making this charge. Yep. If you want to buy here, then go to our website. And Apple stopped allowing that. That's where it actually got problematic, because they were trying to push this 30% fee in there, but they didn't want the businesses and the developers to let them know that, hey, Apple's taxing us, so we have to pass this cost on to you.
Or have any other option. Like the fact that they weren't allowing you to link out, even if someone found the link organically, they would retroactively be like, hey, somebody found that link and charge it outside the App Store. It's like, you want to become a monopoly. That's what a monopolistic, that's what it does. And usually, I think you're right. It's 100%. It was a good ruling by the judge. I know Apple's going to appeal it. Yeah. I know they're going to try.
They said, look, we don't agree that we agree that this is wrong.
Yeah.
Or we think that this is a wrong ruling. We don't agree with it at all. We think we're going to be appealing this, and we're going to be trying to right this wrong and bring justice to business in America. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. I also don't think a judge is going to take that case and be like, yep, that works.
Well, so this has been an ongoing case as well.
True. From 2021, I believe.
They didn't respect the initial rulings. I think that was a big thing too, right?
So I think both parties didn't, because the ruling both parties thought were unfair. I think there was a specific spot where Epic was attempting to get around the 30% charge, and in 2021, I believe, the judge ruled that neither party was right in doing so.
Okay.
But the ruling that came out this week forces Apple to comply, even though we all know they're going to make an appeal for it.
Yeah.
So there's an immediate change that's going to be happening on the App Store for this, and they've already sent out the email to all the Apple developers. If you have an active app on the store, you should have gotten an email. For all of your clients in the United States, this applies. And that's something that's interesting. It's got to go worldwide. That has to go worldwide, but right now it is only in the U.S.
Yeah, 30%, man. But that being said, it's not necessarily that they're not saying you need to lower the 30%, because Apple is in their right to be able to do that.
Right.
It's the
optionality.
And the blockading from letting people choose other options, or redirect people in other areas, or at least notify their customers, hey, if you want to pay a 30% higher fee, then use Apple, because that is something that's evolved, and it's crazy that we didn't initially lead with that.
Right.
But the whole idea of, again, Apple not letting you communicate is where it got really problematic. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's a big win. I think that's good, and I think that will allow more people to actually say, hey, I'm gonna go and actually build something that I can make money off of. I don't know, and to me, man, like I think when people stop becoming creative, you start to lean on other things. And Tim Cook is a business guy.
True.
He's not the creator innovator that Steve Jobs was. He's a business guy, and kudos to him. I mean, if you can take it for all it's worth and play this way, like by all means, it's in your legal right to an extent. I think we're bumping up on that limit of how much they can actually utilize infrastructure that they already have.
Yeah. I think it's smart. I think just to kind of go on that, I think when you said that they kind of are losing their creativity, I think in a world for Apple, they might think, oh, our apps are just so integrated and it's just so perfect just to double tap that phone real quick. Yeah. That 30% is no big deal. You know? and maybe there is a world where it gets to the point where it's so integrated that I wouldn't mind spending that, but today's not the day.
Well, I say this because when you also look at Apple's advertising over the last decade and a half, it's been very, well, specifically I'll say last 5 to 10 years, it's been very feature driven. It's been very like, we have the fastest processors, we have the fastest this, we have the fastest that, which is crazy because being a Steve Jobs company, you would think that it would be in their DNA to be more human in their
experience driven
and benefits driven, not even explicit benefits driven, but like the feeling of it. Yeah. And I think that I saw a few different commercials in the last year, which shows me that they're starting to move back towards that. But I wonder how much of that is tied into the mindset that they have around the App Store, where it's we have to gouge instead of hey, let's just make the best shit possible and have people want to be here. Because I think like another thing too is Apple's been always been pretty good, or like has always been, I think, exceptional on the product side, but on the developer experience, I've always felt like it was lacking.
It's definitely not one of their top priorities, which kind of speaks to that experience that I think they're trying to go for, the user experience, not necessarily the back of house developer experience. But I also 100% agree. It feels like they may be coming around, but they lost their way there for a couple of years. And it was all, I watch all of the drops, right, when they do their annual events, and every single event it was like, here's the number, here's how many milliamp battery we have, or this is the download rate of our motherboard or CPU. It's like, cool. But you know,
there's a subset of people that will really like that.
Yeah, and they can tune in for that. Yeah. But that became the star of the show. Yeah. Which is a stark contrast to how they started.
Yeah. There's it's escaping me right now, but there's if it comes back to me then I'll bring it up. But just, I guess, to put a pin on the whole Apple discussion and where they are, is I think that they're like, you really have to innovate. If that's the brand that Apple wants, it's like they have to do that. It has to be in their products, and I think we can feel that. We can feel when
as a consumer
taken, and you like have to take chances. And I think that we'll see how they rebound from that, because they're being put in a position right now where they can't necessarily just turn the price up and accumulate the cash and pretend that everything is trending in the best direction. They have to make adjustments if they actually want to continue to be the brand that we know them to be.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a great spot to the Apple stuff.
Yeah. So what else is going on in the world right now?
I've been, and it might be because of our space, just kind of where we're at, but I've just been inundated with, and it's been over, not just this week, but, last couple weeks, even like a month ago was the school games around, how can we, get people together to create, digital products online and sell them. And now I'm being just inundated with this, the WAP stuff from Iman Ghazi, who is now a co-owner.
What's WAP?
WAP, as far as I can tell, is a place for people to put up products and then sell them in their marketplace.
Okay, so WAP is like a digital shop.
Yeah, I think somebody coined it as like
It's not the Cardi B WAP. That's not
no,
what we're talking
no. We're not talking about that.
Okay,
We're talking about like a digital Etsy.
about. Okay.
Not yeah, not that.
I was confused for a second. Didn't know
Well,
that.
don't be confused.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, like it's been wild.
WHOP.
WHOP, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Just to see the amount of fervor, the amount of energy that's coming out. He's been doing a live stream every single day this week to try and get people to buy his newest product called Monetize, which I thought, it's a very interesting thing just to look at in terms of the platform that he's choosing to use and the direction I feel like this whole creator economy is going towards.
Okay, so yeah, it's definitely, I think a big part of it is because we're in this space.
Yeah.
I'll never see, and that's one thing, is that we're in here day to day, and so all this news is new to us, and we live in a time where you can be completely immersed in your own world and not see anything else. But there's still a lot of people that don't really know about the digital product space, the digital market space, how that's evolving, this whole social commerce. I think some people have seen it. You might be on YouTube, you might be on Patreon, you might be on WAP, you might see School. There's a few different shops that are starting to pop up, digital marketplaces. Constance is another one.
Shout out.
Shout out. Yeah, and that's the place that we're in, and it's specifically around the whole idea of the digital economy. So for those that don't know, Jake and I founded a company. We're working on a product called Constance. Constance is our solution to the digital economy right now, and it's a solution to the problem of the changing marketplace. So if you look around, you'll see that there are people being laid off right now. You'll see that AI is replacing a lot of jobs that can be automated. I think there's a little bit of an overreach there. Some people that are like, we'll just do it with AI, and then they realize, oh, we can't just do it with AI.
Yep.
But there's just a lot of change right now and a lot of uncertainty in a lot of areas.
True.
And so that's occupying a lot of people's attention of like, what am I going to do next? But there's this other lane in this creator economy which has been evolving over the last 5-10 years, and it's created a lot of opportunity, which we think, and a lot of other players think, that is going to be a source for earning for people and for providing for themselves. And personally, I think it's more of like a step towards a more efficient economy.
Yeah. In
the sense that I think in the past it was hard to allocate talent. There's that whole saying where it says, I can't remember the specific example, but it's basically highlights that if you have if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree or something like that, then it's always going to fail. But if you put it in water, then it's really going to thrive. And I think that that's an undercurrent of this whole creator economy, where it's more efficient. If you put people in a place where they're more passionate, meaning that they're able to endure the things that you have to do to get good at that thing, then you're going to start seeing way higher returns. And that's actually a quick digression, which I think is worth double tapping.
We should absolutely double tap into that. Yeah, because you said it quickly.
Yeah.
But we should double tap into that, because
that, right?
People aren't passionate. Most people, I should say, 80% of people are not passionate about what they're doing every single day for their 9 to 5.
Exactly. They're just not. And I think when people say here, follow your passion, they think follow what you love, follow what makes you warm inside, follow what gets your heart, like pumping and making you feel all, fuzzy.
Yeah.
But passion is rooted in suffering, which sounds kind of dark, but the reason why we use the word passion is because it's the things that when people are passionate, they're willing to suffer for something that they see purpose in, that they care for, that they love. So you're passionate about the things that you love. Passion and love aren't the exact same thing.
Correct.
And so when you're passionate about getting good at something, you spend more time with it. You might be up until 3 a.m. digging and looking and saying, okay, how does that relate to that? How does that relate to that? And that becomes powerful because there's somebody who's not willing to do that and doesn't know what you know. And that's how you become valuable, because now you have something that you can offer to somebody else that has value, that could change their life or that could make their life just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And so that's a space that we're leaning to, that we're seeing the economy moving towards. And I think it started with the gig economy, where it was just, hey, here's some opportunities and jobs
On the side.
on the side,
Yeah.
that you can do if you're like looking to earn some extra money, etc. And that's, I think, great. The next thing though is, okay, how do we actually get people in the places that they're passionate about, so that way they can really move the needle forward and add value.
Yeah, that's it's critical to think about kind of what you're passionate about, and not in the way that, like you were saying, like that feel good thing, but
Yeah.
to me it's always this thing of like, when I'm talking to my friends, what kind of stuff am I telling them for free that other people would pay for?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, and it's not something that I might think people would pay for, and that's why we built, this site, that Constance, to help you discover what it is that people will actually be willing to pay for. It's stuff that you're giving away for free today.
Yeah. Game is to be sold, not told. And right now, a lot of people are just out here telling. They just out here telling. Jake.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, but yeah, exactly. It's like, how do you identify that? And I think that's the new skill right now, and we're seeing that pop up all over the place. And that there's a huge opportunity there. I don't necessarily think it's easy, but I don't think life is easy.
Exactly.
But I do think that you get an outsized advantage when you are in a space that you're passionate about.
Oh, I mean, it's a cheat code, right? I mean, you're going to be I don't want to put a number on this, but you're going to be so much more productive if you're in a space that you're passionate about.
Right.
And that is important, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to dread waking up and getting out of bed if it's something that you're actually passionate about learning, understanding, and then thriving off of.
It's fuel.
It's fuel. Complete fuel. Yes.
It's fuel,
Yes.
and that's the best way to think about it. I think I picked that up from the 50 Cent book.
Okay.
He was talking about, like, I think it was about hustling and how he came up and went from music to business and the threads that he's seen, and he said passion is fuel. It's a thing that you use to get good at something, or to advance a cause or whatever that might be, and it's very, very rewarding in that sense. And then also, I think another thing that we really highlight is the power of interest. A lot of people talk about, well, not enough people talk about this, but I think the smart people talk about interest in the space of investing, where they'll talk about how interest compounds. They talk about compound interest, and that's basically highlighting how the monetary interest accumulated from your investment
returns,
compound over time. And so your initial investment of $1 might, after, let's say, a month, return 5 cents. But if you keep all of that money in there and you don't withdraw your returns, now the next month, the money that you're accumulating, your returns are going to be based off of $1.05.
Correct.
And so you might see something like earn 7 cents in that next month, and it might be $1.12, and then so on and so forth. And it goes slow, then it goes fast.
Yeah.
A case study of this is Warren Buffett. The reason why Warren Buffett is so revered is he understood that the power of this, to the point where he was taking action when he was 11 years old. He was like, oh, so that means in 11 years old, 93-year-old Warren Buffett, I think that's how old he is, realized that way back then. He was like, oh, wow, so if I just keep doing this, then I'll get really, really rich. And I saw recently that he owns 5% of all treasury bills right now.
He does, yeah.
Which is insane. And so, yeah, like the power of interest. But the one thing that I think we don't necessarily look at is how interest doesn't just compound in the monetary space. It compounds in other areas. If you're studying something, the next time you study that, you're not just studying it anew, you're studying it with all of the information that you've accumulated in the past.
Exactly.
And so when you really double down in an area that you're passionate about, again, it's fuel on this thing that compounds over time and can give you an outsized advantage. So we really strongly believe in finding something that you're passionate about, doubling down on it, and using that as a vehicle for earning. And we think that that's going to be the way that people do that in the future.
And also, not to, because I think all those are correct, but also start early.
But wait, there's more.
Start early. Why don't wait until you're 40, 50, 60? Start now. Start as soon as you can.
Facts.
Because that interest is going to compound over time. Stuff I've heard from all these webinars I keep listening to, the first product might not be the complete sellout product that, is going to make you rich, but it's going to be the start of that compounding that you're talking about that'll get you to that spot, and your future self is going to thank you.
Yeah. And well, that also speaks to the ethos too. Is a lot of people look at entrepreneurship as something that you have to do, go all in, or you're not doing it.
Right.
We look at entrepreneurship, I would say, in a more literal context, where it's almost risk mitigation.
Yeah.
And in the past, it was more difficult to be able to start a side hustle and have that grow. But now it's a lot easier because we have so much more access to information. We have so much more access to distribution.
Yep.
That's a big thing of what we are when we look at content. It's distribution of digital products and more products. And we'll save that for another time, like the specifics of it. You can check out the website, or just reach out to us.
Yeah.
We have a community on there, the Founders Drive community, where you can talk to us directly and we can engage. But the main thing is that there's accessibility that we have right now that we didn't have in the past. And being able to access that is huge, and it doesn't have to be done I'll actually take a step back. It's just easier to try out ideas.
Yes.
To create a PDF of some information that you have, put it up for sale, and see if anybody wants to buy it. Yeah. And if sometimes, one thing that it really clicked for me, it was sometime last year.
Yeah.
When somebody was like, "Hey," they sent me a message. What was that one technique that you used? I write songs. I like to do a lot of that, and I have my own, ways of doing it. And I was talking about that with a friend, and he was like, "Hey, can you tell me about what your writing style, how you did that, the drills that you did?" And of course, that's my friend, so I have no problem, passing that along. But that showed me that that's valuable. Somebody's asking me for information that I have, and it's slight, and so now it just becomes about selling that. In the past, you would have to, after you found a way to identify the information, and then after you found a way to communicate it in a way that would show people that there's value there, then you actually have to go and distribute it, and that was even more difficult. And this is what this does, is it lowers the barrier to actually getting it into people's hands, setting up the payment methods, setting up the different ways that you can charge and interact with people that do find your content valuable. And so that's I would say a big part of
the only other thing I would add to that, because I agree with all of that, is the fact that on Constance, you're not starting from ground zero. You're not going to open up the page and have a blank cursor. Right? We have all this AI tooling that's going to help us be creative, even without, as Tendo's talking here, it might be, oh, my friends don't ask me for that, or I can't think of a time when I had valuable information. It's there are times in your life where this is happening, and you're just not attuned into receiving that and then saying, oh, that's an opportunity for me. We were in this space, and so it's a lot easier for us to pull these out and be like, oh yeah, that was a time when people are looking for my stuff. But that's what Constance is going to help you with, right? It's not starting from a blank page.
Well, that's actually a huge thing, because not starting with a blank page is huge, and I think it also speaks to artificial intelligence. So I don't think artificial intelligence is a bad thing at all. I think it's great. I think it's transformative, but I do think that it needs to be contextualized. And I also think that it needs to be applied in a way that actually makes people better. And this is something that we were doing when we were both working at Rocket, and now we're doing that, full time. But AI is, a lot of people are using it to replace jobs that can be automated. And I think that there are a lot of jobs that can do that, or that it can automate. But there's also, I don't think you have a real economy without people. And I think a lot of tech leaders right now, everybody from Bill Gates to people that are starting their AI blog, are always talking about replace
Right.
people, and not as many people are talking about enhancing people, making people more creative, and they're just not talking about that. And I think that's something that we go out of our way to do that, and I think that's highlighted by what you were just talking about.
100%. I think a lot of people, like you said, are talking about how AI is replacing jobs. We're here talking about how AI is creating jobs. We are
Yeah.
literally minting a new way for you to be financially free from what you're doing right now that you're not passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's what we're passionate about. Is bringing that to you. So.
Exactly. Exactly. And using code to be able to help people, give people tools and access to growing communities in using AI to do that. And so, like, the thing that you're talking about was people might be like, I don't know even where to start.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, I don't know what I do that's valuable. And it's kind of funny because it's like almost trying to find and chase your own shadow sometimes.
Yeah.
Where it's like everybody else can see it, but you can't see it, or it's like see your face without a mirror.
Yeah.
Like it's those things that can be a little bit tricky, but that's where we're applying AI is. We have a component in our on Constants where it's called Muse AI, and the main goal of it is to be inspiration. It's to help you pull out your inspiration. Again, we've talked about this in one of our drives before, but
Yeah.
a lot of people look at content creation or creativity as coming up with things.
Yes.
I am a firm believer that it's capturing ideas. It's capturing the ideas that cross your mind, that come to you based off of your experience, and then the second part is shaping them. And I think that's what we often look at as the coming up with the idea.
Right.
But in reality, it is actually putting yourself in place to go and capture the idea and then do something with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally why we're building our app, and that's why you should join.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, exactly. So, if there's like beyond that, I mean, I think that even just going on Constants, we've put tools in there where we can communicate, where entrepreneurs can communicate with other entrepreneurs, and creators can communicate with other creators. I think more people will become entrepreneurs, more people will be becoming creators. Actually, another quick side digression, if you don't mind,
Go for it.
is I also think that specifically in America is built for business.
Yes.
All of the
Why do you think that?
benefits, I think, in the tax code favor business.
Yep.
They're all accessible to people. I mean, it's just the biggest thing that's limiting is education about what's available, and misconceptions about, am I allowed to do that? Is that me? Like, can I do that? It's like, yeah, I mean, if you're in America, I can't say the same for other places, but if you're in America or generally like a Western society, specifically America though, we lean heavily in favor of business and supporting business.
Yep.
You get tax discounts on if you have a business. It's like your tax liability, your debt to society goes down if you're starting and running a business.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot.
I like that though,
that's
because
a
you're
big-
absolutely right. The whole point about being in a society, right, is that you have that debt to society.
Yeah.
And as a civilian or just as a regular 9-to-5er, you are paying that through taxes.
Yeah.
As a business entity, there's different rules.
Yeah, and it's
available to everybody.
And maybe that changes, but what we're seeing right now is that, hey, if you start a business, and another thing too, business is staying busy in a profitable way.
Yes.
And so either you're part of somebody else's business or you started your own business, but nothing's stopping you from starting a business. And so why not? I think a lot of people also talk about, I wish I had this financial or business education when I was younger. It's like, but now it's available. It's just a matter of how passionate you are about exploring your own interests, because you can put a business around your interests. You don't have to start a business and then become interested in that. Some people do, and some people are really profitable because they have another drive, or they have a different mindset, or they just like making things work.
Yeah.
But that's not a criteria. The criteria is just staying busy in a profitable way, and we've just identified that when you're interested in something, that's like the main driver.
Yeah, and just another shout out I want to make here is, like, if you're listening to this and you think you have all this knowledge, that we are saying that people are looking for, this is your call to action to put that into a product and sell it. People want that knowledge. People are hungry for that knowledge. They're willing to pay for it, and it's accessible.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's like, this is your time. Put that together, come on to Constance, put it together, and we'll find people that need this information.
Yeah. And like really just explore the digital space in general.
True.
That's really how we kick this off, is we're looking at school. And school is all about education.
Yep.
School is all about setting up communities. I'm actually part of a school community. But it's setting up communities, and then you can set up paid communities. And it's the same ethos, more around education, but same ethos. They're not selling digital products. And that's what they're doing. We also have the ability to set up paid communities. So that's something to pay attention to. But then there's also WAP, which we talked about earlier. That's what kind of kicked off the discussion, and they're more on the digital product space. They do also have communities that you can set up, and then there's also Stand. I think that's another store.
Yep, that's another one.
That's another alternative, and they have some of the same tooling as us. They're more on the digital product space. I think they're starting to get into paid communities. But yeah, there's a variety of stuff out there, and we're in that conversation. But I think the main thing to take away is to just explore what's actually out there, because you can read a lot of media headlines and news headlines and see that there's no jobs and everything's being taken away. But there's a lot of opportunity out here, especially for people that are looking for alternatives. And here's actually another fun fact is, I was looking at some numbers from this Adobe report, and it was saying that most content creators are millennials or Gen Xers. And then I think it's Gen Z, but they're really close to the boomers.
Yeah.
And typically, and this is more for people that are older who are thinking that digital products are more for the younger crowd, older content creators make more money than younger ones. And I think that makes sense, because ultimately the digital world is a reflection of the real world.
Yeah.
And it's not quite the same, and there are differences, but it's a reflection, right?
Yeah.
And so people that are older and more established have real products that they can sell, and you can really benefit by having not only a digital presence, but then also have digital offerings. And all of that leads as a funnel or a track to your actual physical offerings. And so really it's just adding more granularity to the process, where people can actually jump in and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. Like right now, you don't have to go and buy a building or get a lease at a physical location to set up shop.
Right.
Even if that's your goal, you can do things along the way that make it easier to actually attain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's the whole concept of the knowledge, right? The knowledge is what you're really selling online. That expertise is just a translation for what you're knowledgeable about.
Facts.
And the older you get, the more time you've had to invest into your passions, and so the more knowledgeable you are about that topic. And so the more knowledgeable you are, the more people are willing to say, oh yeah, I'll defer to him for this decision or for this product or for this experience. So it makes a lot of sense.
And like one last thing that I'll leave on before we move into our super secret.
Yes.
Our super secret drive. For those that aren't aware, we're starting on a super secret drive recording, which is accessible on Constance.
Only on Constance.
Only on Constance. And so you can, if you're interested to continue that other discussion, all you have to do is jump on Constance, create an account, and then go to the Founders Drive community, and you'll be able to access that. The first episodes will probably be like free to access, and then maybe down the road when we start putting out the super secret stuff, then we might put that behind a paywall or whatever. But right now it's open.
Get it while it's open.
Yeah, and join and like come say hi, come say what's up. But the last thing that I was gonna leave on, what was the last thread that we were talking about?
Just basically around how as you're older, the expertise translates to knowledge. Your knowledge translates to expertise, and that's why people are deferring to that.
had another point that I was going to bring up there, like another data point that I was going to bring out. But maybe I just save that for the.
I think we should save it. I think we should save it.
For the super secret.
Yeah. And so if you guys are watching this and you guys liked anything we talked about, definitely hit that like, comment, subscribe button.
Yes.
Hit that subscribe button. That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But then if you're interested about something, you guys want to hear us talk about something that we've experienced being founders, comment below. Ask us. We are looking at all the comments. We are responding to all the comments.
Yes.
And we're excited to hear from you guys.
Peace.
Peace.